This hot, this the spot. There it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a podcast for dreamers. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. It's a podcast for creative people of the comedy variety and lovers of creation and art. It's not just for the dreamers. It's for everybody who enjoys listening to nerdy conversation. And it's a great episode today. I appreciate you being here to listen to it. You can find out more about the podcast at thereitispod.com. I would appreciate that. And if you're listening on iTunes or SoundCloud, it is really the only way you can listen to it. One of those two. There's no other way to listen to it currently. But please leave a review and also subscribe to the podcast. And why don't you also, when you go to thereitispod.com, why don't you also go to the support section so I can keep the lights on. There It Is lives in a not very expensive house, but it still has, energy bills, mortgage. Got to deal with that. Today's guest is improviser and co-founder of Theater 99, Brandy Sullivan, and she is fantastic. We get into a lot of stuff, mostly about improv, but a little bit about coaching and running, not really running a theater, but having a leadership position. It's a very good chat. Here it is, my talk with Brandy Sullivan.
This is like the second time I've done this. So, hey, novice podcaster.
Oh, you're doing great so far.
Woohoo. So are you, Jason.
Well, something you're not a novice at all is improv. You've been doing that for some time. How did you get into improv?
Well, I was a theater major at Carolina, USC, and I was introduced to it there in a creative drama class, and really just loved it. And so, like, the dream became going to Second City in Chicago. That was the thing. And then I ended up in Charleston, and my friend Greg Tavares, who you've spoken with, I think, before.
Yes.
He on your podcast. Yeah, he and I became good friends near the end of our college career, and the Have-Nots started. So I was living here in Charleston, and then we just started doing shows in a festival in Piccolo, Spoleto. Well, outside of it because we weren't accepted, but we did our own shows, and yeah, that's kind of the thing. Coming from a theater background and drawn more towards comedy, if you will.
And when you were in college doing improv, was it short form or long form that you were introduced to first?
I was introduced to the Viola Spolin improvisation for the theater. Andrea was our teacher. It was in a classroom setting, but I was really introduced to it. Mm-hmm. And then there was the We're Not Your Mother's Players. That was a group that met on Friday nights, and they would do shows. And there was one time that I got to participate in one of those shows, and it was so scary, but it was so fun, and it gave me the bug of like, ooh, I suck at this, but I want to get better.
Right, yeah, it's that really good experience of something that inspires you, and instead of it discouraging you that you're not good at it, it just makes you want to strive.
Yeah, it's the juice, I guess. It's just It just gets in you. You're like, ooh, that's scary, but I want to know how to do it. You
right,
know?
The hunger.
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed watching. I learned a lot through watching as well. In Second City, the Touring Co. came through to the Koger Center in Columbia my senior year, and it just blew my mind. I went to the show by myself because no one knew what it was and didn't want to go. And so I went by myself and just loved it. I was blown away by it.
That's great. I wish I had seen the Have-Nots when I was in college, because you came to my college a couple of times. I went to Winthrop.
Oh, yes. Oh, we loved going to Winthrop. We went to Winthrop a ton of times. Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I think having seen Whose Line Is It Anyway a good bit, and I had maybe just turned my focus into other things at the time.
College.
Right.
It's college. Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, but improv, as you know now, being an improviser, it's such a live experience. And it's amazing that Whose Line was actually able to capture that excitement and spontaneity on video, because it's a really hard thing to transfer over to that medium.
It is very tough, especially when you incorporate editing video.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 2-camera, 3-camera shots and all that. Yeah, it's intense. It took us years to. Well, we got a couple of promo videos, but it was a real challenge to parlay that fun into video for sure.
In those early days of learning how to do it and get better at it, which I can't even imagine that you had a time period where you weren't good at it, but how did you improve? What did you do to improve?
Well, it was kind of it was kind of baptism by fire. We learned by doing it. Kind of like, oh gosh, this is so scary. I'm getting ready to do this. Oh, okay, let's do it. It was a lot of that. And also playing in the beginning, we were all, and still are great friends. So there was that whole safety in numbers, safety of being in a part of a team that was also, you're able to take the risk and jump into the pool, So by doing, basically, there wasn't anybody around here teaching classes, or there was no improv scene at all.
Yeah, and stage time makes a big difference.
It does. It did for us, especially with, short form. It's, quicker. There's also the safety in, hey, this is a game. It's going to begin and it's going to end in a few minutes. Unlike long form where it's like, oh boy, we got 30 minutes.
Right.
So maybe there was some safety that, and also just wanting to have fun. We had so much fun, and trying to make people laugh while doing good scenes.
So when you start getting better and you start making some traction, what was your love out of improv? Was it more short form, or was it more long form, or was it kind of a dead heat that had your heart?
Yeah, short form, because that's all we did in the beginning, because we started in 95, and then we opened Theater 89 in 2000, and I think it was, I want to say, here, I'm in our office with all the Piccolo posters, in 2003, we got introduced to long form. We knew what long form was, and we're aware of it, but the internet wasn't around. So you couldn't watch stuff on the internet. There was nothing on TV, nothing in the movies, obviously. So
especially
about what's
long
going on.
Form, yeah.
Absolutely, but it exists, and it's this magical thing that's going on in Chicago, and UCB was doing it in New York because they started around the same time as us. And we went, and when we were on the road, we went and we saw UCB at their one of their old spaces on a second floor space, and we were like, what is this? And we'd read Truth and Comedy and all that stuff, but we'd never been able to basically touch the ball, play with it. Yeah.
Right.
That sounds funny, but sorry.
No, good.
So we got so in 2003 we were like, you know what, we love doing short form, but we gotta do long form. And so Bob Dassey, who is an amazing teacher and performer from Chicago, he's in LA now, we asked him to come down. We flew him down, and he spent a weekend with us, the three of us, me and Greg and Timmy, and just taught us the basics of improv through Laurent. Laurent was the first thing that we did.
Oh, Laurent is fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's such a great way to start, too. It's so accessible, because long form could be it can blow your mind in the beginning. And so we loved it. And so we worked hard. That's when we started doing short form in the first act, and then our second act would be long form. So we're like, hey, let's give everybody what they want, which is a lot of fun, short form games, rock and roll, successful. And then, hey, maybe they'll give us some time to watch us fumble through a long form as we learn how to do it. So that was and that's how it's evolved into being our weekend shows here is we still do short form in the first act and long form in the second. As we used to say, we did short form for the audience and then long form for us. But now we do it all for us. You know?
Yeah, it's all fun. It's all fun. It's all
great.
playing with your friends.
Yeah, for sure. But you just want that audience to hang in there with you. So finally, we're at a place, we got to a place where it's like, oh, an audience can sit through this.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that's remarkable about your performance is just how fast you are and how funny and how fast you are at being that funny. What is your process?
Oh, Jason. Thanks.
Well, it's the thing, and of course, Justina, who's been on the podcast, and you know her from her time there.
Love her.
And she loves you, and she just thinks you're the funniest person.
Oh, she's great. I'm so glad that first of all, y'all found each other, and that second of all, she is doing improv still.
Yeah, she's enjoying it. I'm enjoying watching her perform. So we both are amazed at how quick you are. What is your process? How do you develop that skill? There was something Greg and I talked about your ability as well. Just like you're that one who's just that funny. Like, is that something that was came natural to you?
I don't know, because it's your I guess the only way you're funny is if you're funny with your partner, so it's definitely, so for me, it's about trying to make something funny with the person you're on stage with. So I guess that's where my focus is usually. It's not about me as much as them, but dropping in that thing that we talk about here in classes about dropping in to the character, because when you drop into character, you're no longer yourself, and you're not bringing any of your personal stuff in. You're just playing in this, make-believe world. So I think that helps me. Is and particularly, if my mother's out in the audience, I don't feel bad about what happens, because I'm like, that was a character. That wasn't, that wasn't me saying the F word.
So you have some sort of leeway.
Yeah, I think that's the fun of it is dropping in and being in that, being in a character and going with it that way. Does that make sense?
It does. And you mentioned dropping the F word if your mom's in the audience. Oh, that was a character. I have that sort of experience too, because when I do stand up, it's a clean act. But in improv, that's where you might find me using some sort of cuss word or something like that. And
you never know.
Yeah, and there'll be like some church friend of mine in the audience. I'm like, hey, it's just the character.
Exactly.
It's what I was endowed with. I had to say it.
And they're okay with it, right?
No one has complained. I haven't been excommunicated, but we're not a Catholic church.
There you go.
So I guess it won't happen.
Good. Yeah, it's funny because you never know what's going to happen. And to go back to your question, another thing in terms of like being able to be fast, as you say, or quick. I've been using this a lot in the level 1 classes, because I love teaching level 1 classes here at the theater, where people first get introduced to it. Mm-hmm. And it's a theater, like I just say, there's a relaxed focus, like where you're relaxed enough to receive information, like to really be able to hear, but you're still laser focused, kind of like jumping on the balls of your feet mentally. You're there, but you're relaxed enough to receive. And I think that's a big part of it, because otherwise your mind clog gets a traffic jam inside. Right. And the interstate can't flow. So being able to, and Greg and I have talked about this a lot, and he actually said it's like everybody's got to find their own way to find that relaxed thing, whatever, because everybody's different. Like whatever it is that makes you get to that relaxed place, yet still focused.
That's such a tough thing to develop, because you two are absolutely right. Everybody's different, so it's hard to tell somebody what it is they can practice or do to get better at that. And that's something, sometimes I am relaxed in the moment and just playing with my friends and not in my head. And then other minutes I'm totally in my head and not at all relaxed. There is some sort of, immediacy that comes with being relaxed. There's no hesitancy, which you need in improv and stand up as well. Just in comedy in general, you need to be able to react instantly and instinctively. But it's just so hard to get to that place, and it's almost like it's contradictory, where you are being laid back, but you're pushing too. You're working hard.
Yeah, exactly. It is a fine line, because that's why I just call it relaxed focus. Again, relaxed. So you're relaxed, but you're still, like I said, I think of it like on the balls of your feet, like on the what is it, the baseline there, waiting for a serve to come at you. You're relaxed enough to hit the ball back, but you're ready. Do you know what I mean? Because the best scenes you have are when you are relaxed. If you go back and analyze them, they're usually not fearful scenes.
Yeah, you weren't in your head a ton. Yeah.
Right.
It's the difference between... It's like the difference between being focused on paying attention and paying attention. There's this very fine line. Yeah,
it is. It is. And that takes time. I think that, you do enough good scenes using that concept, however it works for you. You do enough good scenes, like you're like, wow, let's do that again. Let's do that again. And then there are times where, there are slumps where you're like, God, it's just not popping. It's just, what's going on? Doesn't feel right. But I think that's just, you do improv long enough, you're going to have some ups and downs, some days where you're just like, ooh, I'm not firing in my brain.
Right. Right.
But you can't beat yourself up for that.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't beat yourself up for that at all. Is there anything you're teaching your students so that they can have that relaxed focus and be on the balls of their feet? My thing is I don't have a thing specifically to tell them. I definitely talk about relaxed focus, because that's kind of my jam. I try to share that, but how I hope that it transfers into their technique or whatever is by them doing scenes, and then after the scene that goes really well, going through it, like how did you feel during that? Like, weren't you were totally relaxed? You could see that you were like able to hear your partner, and it looked effortless that you responded. You were completely altered by them, and so by letting them succeed and really giving positive reinforcement, like that's what I'm talking about. See how that felt? That felt great, because everybody has to experience, and once they experience it once, then they know what that feeling is. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
so trying to set up situations where they can succeed. There's so many, like in warm-up exercises and stuff, like, everybody hears something and they're like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how. Oh, boy, I'm going to suck at this. And then they do it, and it's like, see, of course you can. Of course you can. Don't put a mental hurdle up.
Yeah, I heard that there is a trick that some film directors use when they are starting production on a film, where the first day they shoot the easiest thing. They plan to have the easiest shoot the first day, so that everyone gets that under their belt, and they can say,
awesome.
Oh, okay, I did that. Yeah, I heard George Clooney talking about it somewhere. And that is a good method. I see how it can work in improv as well, because so many people, when they're showing up for practice or for a class, they're just nervous that they're going to do stuff wrong. So if you do give them something that they can do easily and succeed at, then they can just sort of let that fall off their shoulders, that stress.
Yeah, show them examples of them succeeding, and then it just expedites the process. As people have, with confidence comes good work. Not overconfidence, just confidence, like being okay with it,
Right.
Because overconfidence can get you in trouble.
Yeah, that's when people get cocky and they start bulldozing the scene.
Oh yeah, bum rushing. We call that bum rushing. We're like, ugh.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Just
that's an eye roll.
It is a big eye roll situation. You never know what to do. I never know how to help the scene.
You're like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah, someone's all about themselves right now.
And there's a difference between bulldozing and being all about yourself and being fast. There was someone that was telling me that when you're performing with new people, especially very experienced people, there is matching their skill level, and then there's also matching their pace. Those are separate things. It's pace that's just so quick. If somebody is playing with you or Greg, your pace is really up there. It's really fast. You're not bulldozing. You're just fast because you've been doing it for so long.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I like that pace versus in skill. That's interesting. Good one, Jason.
Well, I can't take credit for it. My buddy Jake Sharon mentioned it to me right before our show once. And he's right. And I'm wondering if, now that we're talking about it, is there any sort of, because we're going into a festival here. So now that we're talking about it, go ahead.
Great festival. Love the festival. My friend Jennifer and I went and we did hot pants there last year. You were there.
Justine and I were front row laughing our heads off.
Yeah. That's such a fun, y'all got a good thing going on. It's awesome.
Do. It's our 3rd annual one. We're really looking forward to it. And we're in the middle of it right now, actually.
Oh, I feel for you. I know that's a interesting time.
It stressful. Is. Well, now that we're talking about pace and the fact that there's a festival going on and I'll be playing with people and other people will be one day playing with someone that they don't normally play with who's at a different pace, how do you try to adjust when you're playing at a festival with all these different people?
Well, I think the first thing is just making turning the switch to, I'm going to play with a bunch of people I've never played with. Like, acknowledging that first, like in a real way, not, so it's kind of like, okay, this is going to be different from what I usually do, and being okay with that. And then kind of, because I'm sure Greg talked about this as well, like how we start the top scenes is the first person that goes out gets the first line. So we have time to set things up because we don't have to worry about the second person coming in and immediately start talking.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, throw that out the window in a jam. Like it's going to move quicker. It's not, everybody plays differently.
Right.
So I kind of go in going, hey, let's see what happens. Talk about really relaxed with focus. I think I turn up the relaxed part and go, this is going to be what it's going to be. And it's going to have some magical moments, but there's probably going to be some sloppiness too, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because they're jams.
Right,
the word
it's a jam. No one's expecting the best when it's 6 people who've never played together on the stage together.
Yeah, it's a jam. It could be a really cool musical thing, but jam is also berries smushed up, So it could be either one, the smushed up berries or the really cool musical thing.
Right.
How do you look at it? How do you look at it when you go in a jam situation?
My experience has been, oh my gosh, I get to play with this person. I'm definitely going to get out there and just see what happens. So I take an approach of, if I have an idea, then I'll maybe bring somebody out with me and just initiate the idea. And then I know that they're going to, because they're all these great people from all over the country, I know that they're going to support me. So I have nothing to worry about then. When I get a little nervous on stage is when I'm going out and I have to support people who I look up to. I'm like, oh gosh, they're so strong. I don't know if I'm going to mess up their thing or not. So I end up being sometimes maybe too neutral.
I feel you. Yeah. That makes total sense. Oh yeah, because when you get up there with someone you're like have super duper respect for, you're like, oh boy, keep it together.
Right.
Cool. I totally know what you mean. Completely. Yeah.
When you're joining a scene, what is your process? What are you thinking about so that you don't act too neutral? Sometimes people can be too neutral at the top of a scene when they're joining it, but you also don't want to do too much and step on their initiation.
Right.
What is your process in that?
I try to, if someone goes out and does it and I'm joining them, I try to sense what emotion they have. Like, what is their emotion right now? I have no idea what they're doing, but I can connect with an emotion. Also, physicality. The physicality of what they're doing, I will, match that in some way. Not like, hey, we're both dancing the same dance step. Not like that, but just try to, get in that general make-believe world, because it's the it's like making Jello. That's the beginning, and it's going to congeal, but just gotta connect there at the beginning. But yeah, I would say emotionally and physically, I'm going to try to so that I don't look super neutral and just I'm just standing there looking for any little inkling to connect to. That's why strong offers, and by strong, I don't mean over the top crazy, anything like that, but just that has a little something that your partner can grab onto. So I'm just looking for any tiny thing, and it's usually emotion or physicality.
Yeah, I think connecting with the emotion is something that is maybe underdone in some circles, but whenever I see it, I always feel like this scene is automatically better than so many scenes that I see.
I agree. I was just talking about it last night in class because they were being in a scene and the character started kind of crying, and they'd already developed a nice relationship. It wasn't an argument. It was good. But after the scene, I was like, I bet that felt weird. Did it feel weird to be crying like that? And they're like, yeah, it felt kind of, and it's it looks awesome. Realize it's not in real life. You're doing improv. So when emotion is what makes good scenes great, I think. You don't have to, but when emotion's used, it's so nice. It's what we connect to, as an audience.
Right.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Vulnerability. Yeah.
It's relatability. It's what art is expressing something deep, and that takes a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah. And guys who can be, I feel like women have a more, I don't know, innate thing about being emotional on stage. Maybe it's how we're designed. I don't know. But when guys do it, it's very, it's a powerful thing when a guy, in terms of oh man, that's so funny, because that character was showing emotion. And it seems like I love it when guys do it.
That's fun.
Greg's really great at it.
He is really great at picking up on emotion. There was a scene I saw with him and Zach Ward in January at the festival that you all threw.
Oh, and yeah.
It was a scene where Zach had come out first and established a clear mood and emotion, and then Greg came out and just matched it, and it ended up being a crazy scene, but it was so fun. It was so great.
Yeah. And emotion, again, to connect in that way is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think it's universal for all improvisers, but I guess because I'm teaching a level 1 right now, I'm thinking about, sometimes the guys in my class, it's a little bit more of a hurdle for them to get over to connect with that emotion and then be super successful, and then they kill it. It's great.
What are some ways, because I'm coaching a team right now, when people are having that hurdle of getting vulnerable and expressing emotion, what are some things that you do to help them get over that hurdle?
That's a good question.
Is it giving them something easy to do that's a step before being that vulnerable?
I don't know, because a lot of times it's the classes I teach, in that situation, it's more we do the warm up and then we do scene work, and then we get, we nitpick and go through the individual scenes. So it reminds me, if someone's not emoting, that walk exercise. Have you ever done that, where everybody walks around the stage? Say you're walking around, it's all right, happy. And then and no one, they're not pantomiming while they're going. They're just walking, the essence of happy. And just immediately you see the shift of feeling that feeling affects the way you walk. And then you go back to neutral, and then everybody's walking neutral, and then you go, hey, all right, sad. And you see how that affects you. But so it gives a great example of if you allow yourself to tap into that, because we all have those emotions, open yourself up to feeling that, and then look how easy it makes it. Improv gets so much easier. That's a big thing for me. Make it easy on yourself. Use what you have: emotion, physicality. It's not just your brain. Because if it was just thinking of funny things to say, that I can't think of anything more stressful on stage.
Wow. Yeah. It seems I'm not trying to blow smoke, but you are so funny on stage that it would appear that you are just that good at saying funny things. So the fact that that's not even what you're thinking about.
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I guess things just happen when you're in the scene, and you're connected and just fun stuff's happening. You're gonna say funny funny things are gonna happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think having an interesting perspective helps with that too.
Yeah, and you learn by doing. You learn a lot by watching too. Have you found that as well?
Yes, and sometimes people will say, "Oh, I can't stand to watch a bad improv show," but I learned stuff there too. I mean, it's a challenge. You're looking at something, and if it's not working, then you can go, "Why is this not working?" So you're just still growing your thought process.
Sure, yeah. It can still be a little painful, but
it can be a little painful. I did see a show where I could not figure out what was not working because everybody was doing what they should have been doing, but for some reason it still wasn't working, and that was
just
breaking my brain.
It just wasn't working. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've had these nights, but we've had some nights where everything's great, fun, warm up, great time in the green room, laughing it up, and then you go out there and do it, and I don't know if it's an audience, the energy between us and the audience, or just this unspoken, unidentifiable thing happens, and it's like, damn, that was a lot of work tonight. Every once in a while you get those, and man, they make you appreciate the good nights. I think you got to have a bad show here and there to remind you, of like, oh, the good ones are so good.
Yes.
And so much fun.
Yeah, you need that perspective. If it always goes well, then, a good show is maybe not as significant to you anymore. Yeah.
And also the, like being able to analyze yourself. It's easy to analyze how a group is doing, but to personally analyze, not overly and like beat yourself up kind of stuff, but going, you know what? I did that. I'm sorry. You know what? I did that move. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. Like being able to acknowledge when what you do isn't good, or you know what I mean? I think you learn a lot by being able to self-analyze too, and be okay with, not getting it right every time.
Right. I'm super analytical, almost to a fault, but I learned several years ago how to use my analytical brain for the good of me and those around me.
Good.
But
that's awesome.
It took 30 some years, but
it does. It takes a while not to be able to take that and make you better versus beating yourself up.
How do you avoid beating yourself up, though? For me, it was kind of accepting how I was and how much I process things, and then saying no to negative thoughts. But I don't know how to help other people avoid beating themselves up after a bad show sometimes. I just say, I think you're being too hard on yourself, but that doesn't ever seem to help.
Well, there's always, and talking to other people, say, you know what, you're going to get to go up there and do it right the next time. If there's a next time, there's always that. So it's like, hey, analyze it, be okay with it. Like whether you get a note from a coach or a director or from yourself, just get past it. Acknowledge it, use it. There's a place for it that's positive. But when you feel like it's getting negative, like you got to let it go. Get over it, and just, you're going to get to do it again, and it'll be better, and just believe that.
Yeah, that is a good method. I remember hearing Adam Sandler talk about the difference between working on SNL and making a movie, is that with a movie, you can work on something for a year, then you put it out and it's a huge dud and people hate it, but you have a long time until you can make another movie or get another movie out there. With SNL, it was week to week. If you had a bad sketch, he could always tell himself, I'll get them next week.
Yeah, I'll be Opera Man next week. Right. I'll kill it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the immediacy of getting to do it, that, there's another one right around the corner at some point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Golly, I can't imagine working on something for a year and then it coming out, and that whole process, I guess, being in theater and stuff, it's just so different.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even with a play, you can work on that for a few months, but the writer worked on it to make sure audiences like that way before you come along as the actor to be in it. And then in improv, of course, you can perform a couple times a week if you're lucky, or at least once or twice a month. So there's still more immediacy than if you're in a movie or something like that.
Absolutely, and they're so different. They're just such, because I don't do anything really like that at all. Do you do like film stuff or?
I've done mostly commercials and videos like that, but I haven't.
Cool.
I've done like one film.
Yeah,
and I wasn't.
I used to be interested in it. Yeah.
No,
yeah, I
used to be interested in it.
Yeah, I used to be, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to. I don't really. This doesn't make me super happy, but being in a theater and performing live definitely does. I kind of got to a point where
it's such a different medium.
Completely. But people kind of meld them together. So people that do both, I'm like, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And love both. I'm like, that's super cool.
Yeah, improv can be a really good training ground for film. On certain shoots, you can have one line that you have to deliver at this specific time. It's cut up. It can be cut up in such a way that you don't really get to act like you do in theater, where you have all this time to sort of stay with an emotion and bring it out. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, let me get you to say that line. And you have to be fully there and fully present in the scene and be this character for 3 seconds.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's hard to really, as an actor, feel like you're doing it, like you're actually acting.
Yeah, it's a skill. It is a separate skill, I think. And improv definitely helps. I think for sure. How it's always been considered, building block for acting. Mm-hmm. But it's cool how it's become its own art form.
I love that it's its own art form. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've all gotten to live through that because it didn't used to be like that. It's a cool time to be alive in the improv world.
It is. There's so much that you can check out. There's so many theaters, and they're popping up all over the country, and there's so many festivals that people can go to.
Yeah, and the people are nice. You meet a lot of friends, and
very rarely have I run into somebody who didn't seem all that nice. It was really like 2 times I've run into people who I wasn't so sure about.
I feel you. Yeah, and usually you're not the only one who feels that way. Yeah, I love the eclectic nature of the improv community. Y'all seem to have an eclectic group up there in Greenville. I know down here it's like we've got a variety of people, which I love. That that there are just so many different people who are really have this one thing in common. To become your friends and family. It's cool.
Very cool. Yeah. So you do have an eclectic theater there. You have all these different people from walks of life. When you started the theater, and you had your process, this was something I talked a little bit about with Greg when he was on the podcast, about how you all curate your performers and how you make sure that you present the kind of theater that you want to present. What is going on through your mind? Because you're on the front lines there teaching 101. What are you looking for, and what are you trying to develop?
Well, in a teaching level, want to introduce everybody who has any inkling of, like, I'd like to try that. For any idea, preconceived idea about improv, like introducing them to it, like, hey, yeah, definitely. And then as things, as levels proceed in the training program, there are always going to be those who like, are better at it maybe, or, it's weird. It's that development process, and everybody develops at different speeds. Some people are like, woo, at 2 levels, and wow, they're really good. They're ready for a paying audience. That's what we're looking for, is people who can perform in front of a paid audience. And so there's there's really no one thing that we're looking for. It kind of presents itself.
Right.
You know, like someone once said, like, that's definitely it. That it happens to us, not us going, you. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Because what Greg was saying in the episode I did with
Greg,
him.
and by the way, Greg is so good he is the pull quote king.
Yeah.
He can say things like he's great at that. I'm always like, there's my pull quote king. You know, but yeah, what did he say?
He was saying that you two have your beliefs and your approach to improv, and the people who fit within that are the ones that you end up grabbing. So it does make sense what you're saying, that you're not standing there and saying no to you and no to you. It's just who is filtering through.
Right. Yeah. Leave it to Greg. Leave it to the pull quote king. But yeah, it's funny. And we also, if someone is not at the place where they are at a level to be a company member and perform regularly here, that if people let us know that what their goals are, we're all about helping people reach their goals. So there's never a door that's shut. It's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do to encourage and help this person reach their goals. You know, we're all about helping people get better. For sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a wonderful method, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Because I was just about to ask how you all handle the rejection side of running a theater and casting shows. Casting-wise, I feel like we've got a great balance. Like we get availability, and we roster weekly based on the grid that is the giant availability chart. So we try to be very, very fair. That's our big thing, is being fair to everybody, to make sure that they're reaching their personal goals and their goals as a company member, you know, as part of the group. So, because there's definitely that balance. People want to stick. They've got personal goals and ensemble goals. So we try to constantly balance that. In terms of people getting in the company or not, that to me is very difficult. Personally, I know that it's the nature of the beast, but it's still always very hard, because we're such yes people that when you have to say no, but you know, let's try it again at another time. You know, the door isn't shut; it's just, you know, cracked. That for me personally is hard. Yeah,
but
I would imagine.
I own it.
That's part of the reason why I asked the question. It seems like it would be really tough, and sometimes you do just have to give the no. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, I was just talking to Harrison Brookie about being able to accept no. Yeah.
And you know that some people are great at it, and then some people it really hurts them in their heart, and you just like, oh, you don't want to do that. But that's kind of the nature of what we do, and that the improv journey is, you know, no is part of it sometimes, and but you know. Like, for instance, the improv practice group here. Did Greg talk about that at all?
No, I don't recall. We may have. Remind us.
It's a cool thing. Yeah, it's a cool thing that's evolved out of people, because there was a gap between classes, and they finished class and they're like, oh, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. A group started, this has been several years ago now, but on Monday nights, they meet every week. Every Monday, and it's anybody's welcome, and they meet at different places, whoever has a spot where they can get together, and every Monday it happens. So everybody who's in the classes, we always tell them, like, you should all, you know, if you're having fun in the classes, you should also go to IPG every Monday. So that's a whole other extension of the improv community, and they have a group, improv practice group, every month in our Blast Off series. They have a show, like they can put together their own group and do a show too. So it's like we're constantly trying to, like, hey, be an all-inclusive thing. Does that make sense?
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's fun.
You talked about helping people reach their personal goals. Is there ever a time where you have to maybe give the tough note or crack the whip to get people to achieve their personal goals, just to get them to be more disciplined? And if so, how do you handle that?
Well, in terms of personal goals, yeah, I mean, if they're not doing like for instance, on Wednesday nights we do notes after shows, and which is a great opportunity for people to get positive, and it's all positive feedback in the end, because even if it comes off negative, it's to help. Mm-hmm. We give notes, and then we literally watch, like, okay, you can address it the next show, whether or not it was done or not. Like, you know what, you did that thing again, so try this next time, blah, blah, blah. Try to direct them in the right way. And also with our company members, we have a thing that we offer called a 2-on-1, where a company member can say, hey, I want to do a 2-on-1, and we block off an hour during our work day, and they come in and they talk about what they want to work on, and then we'll do some exercises that align with that thing they want to work on, and do scenes together, the three of us. And those are really helpful. So people can always reach out and go, hey, I want to do that. And we find them very helpful. A lot of times they're the best scenes that we do all week in shows are in 2-on-1s. So I find that helps. But that's also based on someone being open to hearing, like, I want to get better at this. But I feel like as an improviser, that's part of your responsibility to get better, is to be okay with asking, and wanting that kind of feedback.
I think you struck on something so true when you said that all the notes are good notes. They're all positive notes, rather, is how you phrase it. But you really struck on something when you said all notes are positive notes, because you are trying to help somebody. I think that is an important distinction for people to realize. I heard a business owner give a talk once, and he was saying to everyone there, take feedback. Some people will only take positive feedback. Take the negative feedback too, even some of the mean feedback, because sometimes there's a kernel of truth in there. Yeah, and that's how you're going to grow. When you say, what is the experience people are having? And if somebody is saying something, and you see this online all the time, where someone's overly negative and overly mean-spirited, but they had an experience, and what part of it is something that could have happened, and then you need to make any sort of changes to keep that sort of thing from happening. You can't really worry about how someone else responds to something, of course, but you have to be able to give that sort of feedback, and people who are in a position of receiving feedback really should take the responsibility of receiving that feedback well.
Absolutely. You said it exactly. And for Greg and I, we both come from the theater. We think, what we have here is a theater. It's not a comedy club. People call it a comedy club outside. I'm like, I stopped fighting the fight. Right. I don't even try to correct them anymore. But it's like we're a theater. So the idea of getting notes, that's what you do in plays. That's what you do in theater. You get notes. That's
my background too. Yeah.
That's what you do
after a show. Yeah, that's what's supposed to happen.
And you should want them. But I also know that there's a good percentage of people who are involved with improv and here at the Arena who've never done a play. So they're kind of learning about that process as well. And it might be a little jarring at first, but not. But most people are really cool about it, actually.
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes I made was giving notes one time, and when it seemed like it was jarring, then the next time I didn't give notes, and then maybe I gave notes again. And you have to be consistent if you're the coach or the instructor. You have to be consistent with giving those notes so that they understand, well, this is the culture.
Yeah, that's how you do it, and it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Here. And the thing is, Greg and I are the co-artistic directors, and as the leaders, neither of us are on a power trip. We're coming at it from an all love, let's be supportive. That's just how we naturally feel. We don't have to work hard at that. That's just who we are when it comes to Theater 89. No power trips here.
No power trips.
No power trips.
Well, this sounds like a good time to try to create something together at the end of a podcast. I like to create something with the guest. When Greg was on, we did a little game that he plays with his kids.
I believe that.
Yeah, it was just like singing the silly little song. But what would you like to create?
Oh boy, let's do. Okay. You know what? Let's be used car dealers. We own a used car lot, and this is our commercial. We're getting people to come to the car lot.
Okay, what's the name of the car lot?
Well, what do you want it to be? Let's think. You say a word.
Let's see. I keep wanting to say used. Let's see.
Okay.
But it should be our names, right?
Yeah.
How about
so
Creslow? That's my name.
Creslow?
Yeah, Creslow Dollar's been on my mind, so that's what's coming out.
Creslow.
My name is Creslow.
Creslow. Okay, you're Creslow. Well, I'll be Maddie.
Maddie. Okay.
Maddie. Creslow and Maddie.
All right. Do you need a new car?
Well, if you do, have we got a deal for you?
We have all the deals. We got Toyotas, we got Hondas, we've got other vehicles because this is a used car lot.
That's right, Creslow. Here at Creslow Maddie Motors, we got it all. We've got things with 3 tires, 2 tires, 1 tire. Heck, we've even got things we've got bicycles.
We got bicycles with 2 tires, 3 tires, 4 tires. Some of those 4-tire ones aren't called bicycles.
That's exactly right. And when you come down now, you'll get a free car or bike wash for life. Everybody loves to take advantage of that. Isn't that right, Creslow?
That's right. And if you come before Thanksgiving, you'll get a free cup of coffee.
Ooh, wait, what a deal. You're kidding with me, aren't you, Creslow?
I'm not kidding with you, Maddie. I can't anymore. They don't let me do that in the ads ever since I told them they'd get an elephant.
That's exactly right. Boy, that was fun while it lasted, wasn't it? Woo!
It was. I got it from a Simpsons episode.
Everybody's inspired by everybody. Hey, come on down here and come on down to Creslow Maddie Motors and get yourself a new used something.
Something that's going to give you some more of something.
Hoo-wee! Coffee.
There it is.
I think there's a radio play in our future, Jason.
There is. Yes, Creslow and Maddie.
Creslow Maddie Motors.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for asking me. Number 2, yay. That's awesome.
Awesome indeed, as is Brandy Sullivan. She is very awesome. I hope you learned a lot from that. I did. I really thoroughly enjoyed that talk. And if you want to know more about Theater 99, go to theater99.com. That's theater with an R-E. They are in Charleston, South Carolina, a great city to visit. So if you ever do go visit, definitely stop by the Theater 99 stage and watch some amazing performances. You'll find out show information on their website. Find out more about what we're doing here, thereitispod.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at thereitispod. Would really appreciate that. And you can follow me on Twitter at JasonFarJokes, so do that as well. Thanks so much for being here. Very fun episode for you next week. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.